Hello, my name is Vanessa and I wrote the paper, A Woman's Role in the Church. Why I chose this topic. I myself grew up in the church and in a church that had many women pastors. I looked up to this women. I one day imagined being like these women. And I myself also have a heart for teaching God's word. I've done it in the past before with youth ministry and college ministry. But when I started seminary school, I saw that this was a very big argument and topic discussed among my classmates and among my courses. I wanted to find more biblical truth behind it. Just because I am passionate about it doesn't quite mean that I'm called to do it. So researching this topic, I chose this topic because I wanted to make sure that I had a stronger foundation when it came to being called to teaching God's word. In my paper, I took the side of the egalitarian view. This view focuses on the notion that men and women are capable of having the same equal roles in the church, in the home, and in the society. Some weaknesses I saw when writing my paper was, I wish I spent more time in commentaries when I went to dissect the passages in the paper, especially in the verse that we find in the book of Ephesians. Another weakness that I found was I had a difficult time closing my paper, so the conclusion is not as long as I wanted it to be. And last, I struggled with my footnotes and block quotations as well. Some strengths in my paper that I found when writing my paper and reviewing my paper were, I introduced a lot of women in the Bible that God has used to lead and teach men. When introducing these women, I explained how specifically they were used to teach and lead men. Another strength of mine is I dissect and give a lot of information on passages that are very popular in the topic of when it comes to being silent in the church when it refers to women. One of the things that I learned when writing this paper was, to be honest, the definitions of egalitarian and complementarian. I always knew that there were sides when it came to this argument. I didn't know that there were specific terms to define these sides. So I was able to research exactly what complementarian and egalitarian means when it comes to this argument. Another thing I learned was, although I speak of only 3 women in the Bible that were used to teach and lead men, I was able to find more women in the Bible that God has used to teach men and lead men in the Bible. And lastly, the last thing I learned when writing this paper is the notion that sometimes reading a verse is not enough when it comes to explaining something that you need. For example, you need to dissect the verse, you need to find the context behind the verse, and you need to research the verse and to see exactly what was meant in that time and how it could be used today.